it, the top 10 reasons why the A7R III will probably make my camera of the year for 2017. Testing 1, 2. Hey guys, this is Steve Huff from SteveHuffPhoto.com. Hello and happy Halloween. It's the day before Halloween, but I want to say happy Halloween to everybody. Halloween's always been my favorite time of year. Yeah, even more than Christmas. It's just a thing. But I wanted to talk today about the new Sony A7R Mark III and why I feel, here's 10 reasons why that it may just be my camera of the year for 2017. And yes, even above the flagship A9, which is what I'm filming this with right now, along with the Sony 28mm f2. Wonderful lens. But let me get on to it. The top 10 reasons why the A7R III will probably make my camera of the year for 2017. All right, number 1. The Sony A7R Mark III now has the algorithms from the Sony A9 when it comes to autofocus. So you're getting over twice the autofocus performance speed of the previous A7R Mark II. You're not quite up to A9 standards, but you do have much quicker performance all the way around with your AF on the A7R Mark III. Now I shot it, I handled it, and I was blown away. I didn't think it was gonna be that responsive. I even walked up to one of the Sony guys and I said, wow, this feels a lot like shooting my A9. You guys did pretty good, you got it close. And they were just like, yeah, it really is. So while it's not all out A9, you're not getting that 20 frames per second, you're not getting that insane all out response. You're getting close. So to have that paired, why this is so special, because people are like, well, you have the A9 that's faster, what's the big deal? The big deal is you're doing this with a high resolution 42 megapixel sensor. The A9 is pushing that 24 megapixel. So to do this with a 35 millimeter format, full frame, 42 megapixel sensor, that's mighty impressive. That's just one reason. We have 9 more to go. Number 2, the battery system. Sony's now using the new Z system batteries in the A7R III, which is incredible. The one weak point of the A7R Mark II was that dang battery. You used to have 3, 4, 5 of them for that camera. When the A9 came out, they introduced the Z battery, which is incredible. I own 3, I've never had to break out the 3rd ever, and I only had to break out number 2 when I was shooting a lot of video. So the A7R Mark III now uses that amazing battery system. You have a new charger, you have a new battery. The chargers are fairly quick at charging the batteries. And I talked to some artisans and some pros who've been shooting the A9 and some who did shoot the R Mark III. And some of them were getting 2,000 frames, 1,500 frames per battery charge. So that's the number 2 reason. You gotta have good battery life in a camera for it to be something, you know, as an entire package. I'm not saying battery life makes the camera great. It's a combination of things. So now with the AF speed, that battery life, you have a winner already, but there's 8 more reasons why the A7R Mark III will probably make my camera of the year and what I feel will be Sony's most successful A-series camera to date. Number 3, the EVF. The EVF of the A7R Mark II was decent, but it wasn't up to the level of the A9, the Leica SL, even the Olympus EM1 Mark II. But now, with the A7R Mark III, you're getting the A9 EVF, that high resolution display, which is clean, clear, and flat out awesome for an EVF. It still doesn't match the Leica SL EVF, which I still proclaim the best EVF in the world in a digital still camera, 35mm full frame format, but it's the second best. And now the A9 has it and the A7R Mark III. So there you have the EVF of the A9, the autofocus algorithms of the A9, the battery systems of the A9 in the A7R Mark III. And just those 3 things right there make it such a much more enjoyable camera than the Mark II, and the Mark II was enjoyable as it was. Number 4, the IAF of the Sony A7R Mark III and A9 is astonishing. No other camera system has this, and I'm telling you, I really tried it for the first time seriously at the A7R III event, and man, it just locks onto an eye, and your model could be turning, walking. As soon as she looks back or he looks back, you're gonna get that IAF. And where this is really special is if you're shooting something like a 85-1.4 G Master, for example, and you want a portrait, and you know how sometimes the camera will misfocus and focus on the nose or a hair or an eyebrow. When you want that eyeball in focus, the IAF of the Sony, which can be programmed to a button, or you can push the center of the control wheel to lock on that IAF, and as soon as you get the shot you want, you fire away and you will get that eye in focus, even at f1.4. So that is a technology that Sony has in their cameras that you can't get from a Nikon D850 type of camera. The IAF is real, it works, it's not a gimmick, and it works really, really well. Number 5, the extended dynamic range, which is awesome to have. You know, I experienced 15 stops of dynamic range with the Hasselblad X1D, and oh my goodness, did I fall in love with that. You become spoiled by having that much dynamic range. Now the A7R Mark III at base and lower ISOs, shooting RAW will give you 15 stops of dynamic range. Hard to complain about that, especially for you landscape professionals or landscape enthusiasts. You know, this camera has something for everyone. Landscape, portraits, wedding. You can do action and sports with it. You can do nature. Sony had released a lot of images from eagles in flight, and they were astonishing. So add all of these things together and it's making one hell of a camera, and we're only halfway done. Number 6, ladies and gentlemen, number 6, dual SD card slots. You guys have been asking for this forever. They put it in the Sony A9. Now the A7R Mark III has the dual card slots. Another thing from the A9 flagship. They're just pouring them into the A7R Mark III. So now you have a backup. You can have a backup of your first card. You can have it as an overflow, however you want it to be set up. Me, I have it set up as photos in one and video for another. It's pretty cool the way you can configure it. So the A7R III now has this much wanted feature, finally. We're at number 7 already, and this is cool too that you won't find in a Nikon D850 or DSLR. The A7R III, much like the A9, has 5-axis image stabilization built in. The sensor moves, so it's going to help you take steady images and low shutter speeds or what have you. It's been enhanced and tweaked to offer 5.5 stops of compensation. The A9 has 5, so it's doing a little bit better than the A9. But this is another thing you don't find in a lot of cameras, that 5-axis image stabilization. So, you know, you have all this stuff already that I've named off, and on paper you're like, wow, that's an incredible freaking camera. 42 megapixels, IAF, 15 stops of dynamic range. I don't even mention this in this list, but improved high ISO performance, low light, which Sony already is king at with some of their cameras and sensors. The battery system of the A9, the viewfinder of the A9, you have all of this cool stuff, the dual slots, and we're still not finished yet. Okay, number 8. Number 8, I just did 7. Lenses. Sony has something like, what, 26, 27 E-mount lenses native that they have put out for the camera. And then you have third party. You have Zeiss who makes E-mount, Voigtlander who makes E-mount, Sigma who makes E-mount, Tamron who makes E-mount. You have all these manufacturers making E-mount lenses for the Sony cameras. Then you have lenses you can use adapters for, Canon, Nikon, Leica. You can all use them on your Sony Alpha camera, which to me makes it the most versatile camera in the world. You have a full frame sensor, and you can take advantage of any lens made almost and gain the full frame character of that lens. You're not cropping it with an APS-C sensor. It is what it is. And sorry about my voice, it's getting a little hoarse, but it's amazing. So versatility with lenses, you have so many to choose from. Back 4 years ago when we didn't have much to choose from, today it's the complete opposite, and there's more on the way. Sony just announced the 400 f2.8 development, which is scheduled for summer of 18 release. They're dedicated as anything to their cameras, and they are pushing ahead full steam. You know, there's no way Sony's going anywhere. They're like climbing and climbing. Number 9, silent shooting. You have the silent shooting feature on the A7RIII as well. So you can press that shutter and hear nothing. It's silent as a mouse. And for some people, that discreetness, that quietness, not having that big clunk of a shutter, which to be honest, the A7RIII shutter sounds nice. It's an all new shutter designed to reduce vibrations. So that's also something new that has been added. But the silent shutter feature, a lot of people love it. A lot of people use it. And while it does not work well in every situation, there's some situations with certain lighting you don't want to use it, it'll cause banding. In most situations, it works just fine. And what about number 10? You just take everything else that the camera offers, the touch LCD. You finally have the touch LCD on the Sony A7RIII. Sony also is bringing us the pixel shift technology, which is for tripod shots when you want the most detail and the most perfect image quality possible. It takes 4 images, combines them, composites them down to one 42 megapixel image, but you're benefiting from more detail, no moire, much better shading and tonal gradations. It's just a really cool thing, but you do have to use a tripod, and you do have to use Sony software that's coming out to you know, put these images together and have a final output. So overall, the A7RIII has so much going for it. So much going for it. What's a weakness? With the A9, what does the A9 have over the A7? It has a new body, which I prefer. It has an extra control dial to set your shooting modes, which I prefer. You don't have really any rolling shutter issues with the A9. What is there has been minimized because of the way the camera was designed. The A7RIII, you're gonna have rolling shutter if you're careless and don't take steps to prevent it during either video or what have you. Weather sealing I feel is better on the A9. I misspoke in an old video and said the A9 didn't have it, but it does. The A7RIII is weather resistant and dust proof or something like that. But overall, for $1,300 less than the A9, I would recommend the A7RIII more, because you're getting the higher resolution proven sensor, you're getting better image quality, you're getting 15 stops of dynamic range, you're getting all that stuff ported over from the A9, and Sony says, and they're not shy about saying it, the A7RIII is their highest quality camera to date when it comes to all-out image quality. So if image quality is your thing, the A7RIII is your camera. Now, with all that said, what about the A7R2? You can get that camera at a much better price today, $2,300, $2,400. So you're saving a lot on the R2. Is that camera worth it? If you don't want the enhanced speed, the double speed of the AF, if you don't want the improved 5-axis, the improved battery, the improved EVF, the touch LCD, the dual card slots, the extended dynamic, if you don't want all of that, the A7R2 at $2,398, I think it is. So you're saving like $700 over the new version. You can get a great deal on an A7RIII. I'll put links in the description to the A9 I'm using here, the A7RIII, where you can pre-order it because it ships November 30th, a month from today. I will bring you my full review of the camera, which I have not done yet. Nothing I have done here or at stevehufpphoto.com is the full review. That's coming in 2 to 3 weeks. If you like this video and want to see more, thumbs up and subscribe. This is Steve Huff. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.